on those fiscal policies, on those regulations that will level the economic playing field so the private sector can be a major source of sustainability. So it's not a lack of, interest of the private sector. It's not a lack of values and principles in the private sector. It's not the fact that the private sector continues to think that business as usual is the option. It is the fact that governments has not been able to really understand how they can first be more consistent in their development policies, and second, that the private sector cannot be on board unless we level the economic playing field. Today, all governments, from very developed Finland to the least developed nation of this planet, invest in an average 144 times more financial resources in economic sectors that destroy nature and contribute to climate change than what they all invest in protecting forests. And we have heard the numbers on subsidies to the oil and gas. We have heard the numbers of the subsidies to the agricultural sector. I mean, this is the big issue. So it's not a matter of funding and narrowing the gap for sustainability. I mean, the financial gap, global financial gap for protecting nature is $700 billion. The way forward is not finding new $700 billion somewhere there. It is defunding. The solution is defunding those activities that threaten life in this planet. And when I talk about threatening life in this planet, somebody may think, well, this can be a little bit dramatic. Read what scientists are telling us. Scientists told us 20 years ago that if we don't take action, by today, forest fires will be a major issue, droughts a major issue, and extreme weather events a major issue. And read what scientists are telling us what will happen in 20 years if we continue on this. So this is just one example of one of the big challenges that we have. I saw it 30-something years ago, and that really triggered me to get into politics, and I did my best over there. And by the way, Costa Rica in the 1990s and early 2000s not only stopped deforestation, doubled the size of the forest, went 100% clean in the electric sector at the same time that the economy tripled and the population doubled. So yes, I agree, knowledge sharing is extremely important. What IDB and the private sector and ODA, the Canadians, has done in Costa Rica is beautiful, but they don't understand what they did. So they are unable to replicate, to test things that they did in Costa Rica and somewhere else. And just, of course, the enabling conditions that Costa Rica offers are unique because it's an unstable democracy. And that is a key element here. So the second case I want to share with you that reflects the level of challenges is the fact that a month ago, the 20 biggest economy of the planet met, no, not a month ago, 2 weeks ago, in Delhi, the G20 met. The 20's largest economy, 2/3 of them are industrialized, supposedly developed nations. I don't call them developed nations. These are supposedly developed nations. And emerging economies. And they were unable, and they have 80% of the fresh water of the planet, 80% of the biodiversity, and they are 80% of the carbon emissions. And they were not able to agree on what they already agreed in 2015 in the Paris Agreement, to recommit to the 1.5. They were not able to do that because they got this highly ideological agenda in their hands where everybody's blaming someone else for the problem and everybody's putting pressure on someone else for mobilizing the resources, when we all need to understand that it's in our own self-interest to mobilize financial resources from all sources as soon as quickly and create the enabling conditions for that political coherence. So how do we deal, and I have 3 minutes and I conclude, Claudia, how do we deal with these two issues? One, on the major lack of policy coherence. That Minister of Agriculture and that Minister of Environment that I saw 30-something years ago telling different stories, they just are representatives of the institutional framework that our country has created. The institutional framework, I mean the agencies in the executive branch. I'm talking about agencies in the executive branch. We got too many agencies in the executive branch managing renewable and non-renewable resources without any comprehensive approach in terms of a management that is integrated. So, you know, I worked in Sumatra for a few years, and I had to deal with the Ministry of Environment, and we had a beautiful landscape to do a lot of interesting things, but I had to deal with the Ministry of Environment, a Ministry of Forests, a Ministry of Energy and Mines, an Office for Carbon Credits, every single agency with a different plan, with a lot of money, and without any consistency at all. So what we did in Costa Rica was, first, we merged the management of renewable natural resources with the management of non-renewable natural resources. This is bringing those two major actors into this play, Minister of Environment, Minister of Energy and Mining, all together on one agency. We did it in 1986. Today, Costa Rica has doubled the size of the forest. We're getting up to 60% forest cover, and the expansion and protection of the forest doesn't compete to where we produce our energy, where we produce our food, or where we live. That's very interesting. So I was a minister in Costa Rica of Environment and Energy, and as such, I was invited, just to reflect I want to reflect the magnitude of the challenge. I remember one meeting of ministers of energy of Latin America in Buenos Aires in the early 2000s, and we were there in this very fancy salon. All the ministers of energy of Latin America were there. We were talking about a little bit of sustainability, transitions, efficiencies, prices, a lot of things. But at the beginning of the meeting, the chair, the Minister of Energy of Argentina says, can you introduce everyone here? And I was the last on this side of the room, so I was the last one introducing myself. So the minister introduced themselves. When it was my time, I said, I'm Carlos Manuel Rodríguez, the Minister of Environment of Costa Rica. That's my title. And everybody looked at me, even the chairman, looking at me. And the chairman said, Mr. Minister, you're in the wrong meeting. This is the meeting of Ministers of Energy. And I said, I'm also the Minister of Energy. And he gave me the opportunity to hammer big time on all of them, whereby they feel that the Minister of Environment in a meeting of Ministers of Energy is an enemy. And this guy is dangerous because he's a tree hugger. Well, this is what we have today. Do you believe that the private sector can do any business out of, protecting 30% of nature, 1.5% deep polluted, cleaning the river with this? No, there's no way. There's no way. I think that challenge that we have, and I conclude with this, Claudia, that political challenge that we have within the North and the South is as serious as the challenge that we have within my generation, who is here as decision maker from public and private sector, and my kids' generation. I mean, I'm the black sheep of my generation. Simple as that. And it's very interesting because, and we need to accelerate that transition. If we accelerate that transition, we'll be in very good shape. So I got 4 kids, and I conclude with this, 4 kids. And I said, well, that should be a biologist, that other a forester, that an ecologist, and that one a microbiologist. That was my inspiration at, every single day. Unfortunately, none of them selected any of those careers. And most of them were in business administration, psychology, sociology. But you know what? All of them work in nature conservation. So the lesson I receive from my kids is that you don't need to be a biologist to save the planet. This is the next generation that is coming, pushing for the system change, pushing for the change of guard. That is why the GEF, the biggest financial mechanism for sustainability, looks at the youth as an objective, as a target, as a financial target, because we know that if we continue to work just with the executive branch of 144 countries, we will never make it. So thank you so much, Claudia, for the invitation. Congratulations to every single person. I wish you